Welcome to the Royal Flush Podcast. My name is John Overy, the VP of Sales here at Royal Flush. In this podcast, we cover the ever-growing ins and outs of our state-of-the-art pipelining company. And specific to this episode, Kyle and I talk about our new literature that we came out with, and more importantly, some specific questions that we're going to ask customers in that literature packet to really narrow down the specifics of a project and a job to make sure that we're the right fit for them. So stay tuned. I think you're going to like it. Kyle's going to show the literature on the screen as well. Check it out. Have a listen. What the hell is pipelining? 99% of people don't know what we do.
Pipelining is a way of making a repair to a sewer line or a drain pipe without having to dig it.
We're going to basically put a new pipe inside your old pipe, and what we do is really, really cool.
Ultraviolet light.
Without a doubt, is the coolest technology that we have.
Mark is the most knowledgeable pipeliner, certainly in New England, that I know.
So I always say, listen, I got the best team in the game, and it shows itself in situations like that. You got trailers loaded with every inch of equipment these guys could possibly need. Then you have that whole lining rig that's got everything. And you've got 4 to 5 guys that are going to show up there that are these technically trained guys that all are professionals at their job.
Very simple. We're going to be the biggest pipelining company in New England.
Welcome back to the Royal Flush Podcast. I'm Kyle McShane, here with John Overy. And John, the inspiration for this episode, we recently just created new versions of our literature that are, we hand out at trade shows. Our sales guys, project managers go hand out to potential customers. And so that's kind of the inspiration behind this episode. I guess what are some takeaways? This is our second time around doing this.
Yep.
What value do you see in something like that, and what have you learned kind of through that whole process?
Yeah. Well, so we revamped our literature. This is kind of our second tier now, our second version, second generation, right? iOS 2.0 for our Apple users. And we realized there's things that we thought were really great about our literature, things that we weren't. We looked at other industries, our competition. And for us, we have a whole crap ton of information that we want to convey in a very short period of time. I could probably create like 70 pages of literature about the technology and what we do and how it works. But let's face it, anybody who's being solicited by us and educating them about our service, or maybe just has a general inquiry about it, who the hell wants to flip open something with, you're not going to read it, right? You are flat out not going to read it. So we kind of had to narrow in, focus on the major points, what would be visually stimulating, making sure everything is on brand with our Royal Flush logo and the colors and the tartan and the before and after pipes. But really what would be the most hard-hitting piece of information. So this is really all you, Kyle. I just tell you what I want. You're the one who creates it. So you are really the brainchild behind the information. So if you've ever come across any of our literature, I hope that you agree with us that I think it looks very, very professional. You would not think me and Kyle, who honestly we have no idea what we're doing, could come up with something that looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I think it looks pretty great. So I think it looks very professional. From a small family-owned business, to me, this literature allows us to perceive to be a way bigger company, which we want to be, and we're growing to.
Of course.
To have way more backing and information and marketing research, right? It makes us look like we know what we're doing, which I like.
Even though we're a bunch of bimbos.
Yeah, we're going to have no clue. And then specifically was how to make it a little more interactive for the customer, right? So we had a QR scan code, and we wanted to embed that into the folder. And we wanted to focus a little more on our technology, really revamp our references, which my favorite piece of literature or information or a PDF or an email. It's the favorite item I have is to send people, well, hey, here's a list of references in brand name institutions that you may know of or look familiar. That's my favorite line whenever I talk to somebody or send somebody an email, because the businesses and the schools and the universities and the hospitals and apartment complexes and the stores and the restaurants and all the things that you see the picture of, like, oh, I know those in the area. We've lined those pipes, and that makes me feel really good. So we revamped the reference page, and then what we're really going to talk about is a little, Kyle will put up a graphic, but a little checklist this little simple, postcard looking thing of what could we have the customer kind of maybe do some homework on? What could we have them make sure that they know the facts and information so when we talk to them, they're ready to give us, right? Like how could we empower them, but more importantly, get across, hey, you need to know these things so you can answer my question so I can properly tell you, hey, we are the right company for you or we aren't. And I can properly set up that camera inspection so that when we get there, we all know what we're doing, right? And so why don't you read me these, Kyle, and I'll kind of tell you the brain power behind why that question is important, what the answer to the question should be and is, and how powerful, in our opinion, those questions really are and how important they are to every project. So
Awesome.
start with number one.
All right. So the first question is, what is the size of your pipe?
Okay, very, very important question. So we'll do each of one of these with like the why behind the question, right? So if maybe somebody doesn't know the answer, or I'll get a crotchety old maintenance guy on the phone, right? Or we're gonna rebut that question. Be like, oh, well, why do you need to know the size of the pipe? What does it matter? Don't you guys line pipe? Who cares?
Yeah.
I've only had a couple of people ask me that. But the reason we need to know the size of the pipe is twofold. One, if you have a small pipe versus a large pipe, the equipment that we bring to inspect the pipe is probably going to be different. If you have a 4 or a 6 inch pipe, we might just bring our push camera. If you have a 6, 8, 10, 12, 24 inch pipe, we're going to bring our robotic camera. Those are two very different pieces of camera equipment. Also, two different costs to come out and do that, right? And so if I don't know the pipe, I don't know the size of the pipe, what I always say, Kyle, what do I hate wasting?
Time.
Time.
Just time.
What we want to avoid is me showing up or under the assumption that it's a 4-inch pipe and I get there and it's a 15-inch pipe. And I don't have the equipment I need. You know what I did? I wasted your time, but more importantly and selfishly, I wasted my time. And I do not like doing that because time is money. I had 2, 3, 4 guys go out there, schedule it, put it on the calendar, talked with you about it, had them go out. I mean, we're talking hours of time and money wasted because either I didn't ask or you misled me on the size of the pipe. It's very, very important. Secondarily, the different size pipe, if and when we actually do a job, are used with different pieces of equipment, maybe a bigger drum, maybe bigger air hoses. So the setup for the equipment is going to be different. And so if we just go there thinking it's a 4 or 6 inch pipe, or for some reason we don't really talk about this and we even do provide an estimate, and it ends up being larger, what we're actually looking at is the logistics of, hey, where's the pipe? Where am I going to park the truck, right? So we need to know all that stuff based around the size of the pipe. It's a really, really important question. And it's okay if you don't know the answer, right? So, when I ask, what's the size of the pipe? You can go, I don't know. I can ask you more questions that probably can help me understand, what do we think this pipe is connecting to? Is it just a toilet and a sink? Is it a shower? Are we in a commercial kitchen that grease lines are connecting to? Those are usually a little bit smaller, right? I can ask you some questions that you probably going to know, even though you might not know physically what the size of the pipe under the ground is. So it's a very important question.
The second question is, what is the type of pipe?
Okay. Again, maybe that crotchety old facility manager guy's like, I don't know the type of pipe. What does it matter? Hey, you guys clean pipe all the time. Piggybacking off the first question, the techniques that we use to clean a pipe are very different based on the type of pipe that it is. So for instance, a cast iron pipe is going to be descaled with the chains, with the coat, this really cool sander type of thing. We're not going to use that on a PVC pipe that might be clogged or backed up because we're just going to chew up the pipe. We're probably not going to use those on a whole clay pipe with roots because the clay is a little more brittle. We might use a jetter. We might just be able to push it through. A lot of pipe in this state is actually asbestos. We need to know that. Again, we're going to understand that when we camera it, but we want to know these facts and information ahead of time so we can be as prepared as possible when we go there to investigate what's going on. Even though the pipe may seem like it's flowing, there's a chance it could not be. And so if I know if it's a cast iron pipe and we're going to camera it, we're also going to bring the equipment that we might need to possibly clean it or clear a blockage temporarily so we can do a full camera inspection. But if it's a certain type of pipe and I don't have the jetter with us or the coat to clean it, again, right? We want to try and be as efficient and get as much information as possible. And then further down the line, if we have any lateral connections or any reinstatements, those are different to do in different types of pipe. So it's not going to affect the job. It's not going to affect our ability to do the job. It's going to give us more ammunition and information to be transparent with you, the customer, and to show up to gather all the information and allow me to get you the best price I can. So that's why we need to know the type of pipe.
And then we've recently did an episode on pits, access pits. The third question is, what is the access to the pipe?
Yeah, this is probably the biggest unknown wild card leading up to any conversation to scheduling a camera inspection, potentially doing a job. And so a big conversation with everybody usually is, well, I mean, can you guys give me a ballpark price, right? Nobody has any idea how much pipelining costs. And if you've ever talked with me on the phone or checked our literature information, one of the biggest wild cards on every project that can certainly fluctuate the cost is what we call the access to the pipe. So here's what I mean. If we have a house, we might access it through a toilet flange. We might go into the basement in your vertical stack that goes either through the foundation or the basement wall and heads out to the street or a septic tank. Those are a little more easy and common. In a commercial or industrial building, we might not have those simple accesses. There might not be what we call a proper clean out, or maybe a toilet doesn't seem to logistically go, or there's a manhole outside. I always used to say in about 25% of our jobs, but it's actually creeping up more to about 50% of our jobs. We need to dig what we call an access pit. This gives us proper access to the pipe for the cleaning, descaling, jetting, and the shooting of the liner. We have to be able to access the pipe properly. If your pipe takes a funny twist and a bend, that can make lining it very tough. Also, really, the access pit is almost 90% for the cleaning process. You've got to get all that nasty stuff in the pipe out. You have to get it out. And when I'm doing this, is pulling back towards you. You really can't and shouldn't just flush it down because it could get stuck down the pipe. It could get stuck in the main. You really need to pull all that stuff out. So to clean the pipe properly, when we're digging an access pit, 90% of the time it's for cleaning. Sometimes it's for shooting a liner. But determining that access to the pipe, if we possibly can beforehand, again, just makes everything so much easier. So if I'm talking to you about price, I'm going to say, well, a wild card is the access to the pipe. And they would say, maybe somebody cleaned the drain through the toilet, or there's a clean out in a closet, or there's a clean out in a basement, or there's a manhole, right? These are just things we need to know to make sure that we can properly access the pipe. I can't tell you how many residential jobs we've gone to, and we can't get in the pipe. Cannot physically get any of our equipment in the pipe. There's no toilet near it. You go in the basement, there's no clean outs. The only way to get in the pipe would be to cut the pipe. Now, we can certainly do that, but some people are like, oh, I don't want that done, right? So we would show up, and I'm like, I can't do anything for you. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, well, I need to get my camera in the pipe. And they're like, okay. I was like, well, how do you expect me to do that if there's no opening? If there's not a little screw cap or something, right? That's what a clean out's for. So to have the knowledge of that, and most of the time when we're being called, somebody has already been to this project, property, commercial, industrial, whatever. Somebody's been there before because they probably had problems, right? And now they're looking for a permanent solution. And so, the answer to that is usually when I'm talking to somebody, yep, there's a clean out in the basement. Yes, you can get it through the basement. Yes, we have a crawl space. Yes, we have a clean out. Yes, there's a clean out outside. Actually, the manhole is the easiest access. Okay, great. Again, all the information to get us ready to come out and look at it.
Awesome. The fourth question is the pipe currently flowing or backed up? This is a big one.
This is a real big one. Again, so if you're calling us at Royal Flush and we're having a conversation, you've usually had a problem. Now, if there's any people out there who don't have problems and just want that pipeline because they want to spend money with me, go ahead and call me. I would love to hang out with you and love to line your pipe just to make you feel better. But that does not happen, okay? So most people have had either an issue right now or something's happened a couple weeks ago, or they had a backup and there's been sewage in the basement in the house or the business, kind of gotten cleaned up, and now they're like, all right, we can't let this happen again. We got to get this really fixed. The guy came with the jetter and told me there's a hole, or he snaked it and he couldn't do it, and I got your name and number from somebody. I did some research, right? So they're now looking for a real solution. If I think your pipe is flowing, and I get there and it's not, that changes everything for the camera inspection. That completely changes my ability to assess what's going on and to provide you a solution and an estimate. Completely changes everything. Secondarily, if the pipe is full of poop and water, am I going to be able to see inside it?
No, absolutely not.
No. I can't assess what's going on if it's literally full of shit. How can I possibly see where there's a break, a crack, get an estimate on footage, and assess what's going on? You can't. We need the pipe up and flowing. We need the pipe clear to truly assess what's going on. Now, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes there is a true break or a collapse, and we can do other things, but we need to know that ahead of time. We really need to know that ahead of time. Again, back to the other ones, so we can bring the proper equipment,
Yep.
right? Or do we work with one of our other colleagues and people we do business with and have them drain clean it before we arrive so it is up and flowing, and we can just put the camera down, give a true assessment, offer you a solution and an estimate. We do that a lot of times too. But if we don't know or we show up and that pipe's clogged, you know what I'm going to say? I can't camera it.
Yep.
And you still owe me the money for it to come out.
Yeah. And it's, if you don't have the equipment with you,
Yeah.
SOL, shit out of luck.
That's usually a very unhappy customer, which we don't like to make. But
Yeah, of course.
if it was a miscommunication and you misled me on that, or we didn't answer the question, no, sometimes people are like, well, I didn't know it was clogged. Okay, cool, I get it. But that's why we ask, is it up and flowing? You know, are your toilets flushing? Is your shower draining? Is your sinks draining? If those answers are yes, you're probably up and flowing. If it's no, okay, do we need to get there and clear it? Do we have somebody else clear it before we arrive? Right? What's the timing, kind of like the course of events, to make sure that when we get there, we're not wasting your time and our time.
And then last but not least, the final question is this a vertical stack, roof drain, sewer pipe, or storm pipe?
Again, those are all pipes.
Yep. Well, all pipes we
All
specialize
different. These are all pipes that could be any size, made of any material, right? So these are going to the other questions. But the reason we need to know where the pipe is, if it's on a roof and there's no access and I don't show up with the ladder, what are we doing?
It's another equipment thing. You need to
Right?
know what
It's
to bring.
another equipment thing. Again, the technology we use to fix it could be different. We could use a different resin. The guys need to know the information going into the job. And so if you realize, Kyle, these are with a perception to have the customer educated, but they're really all selfish.
Yeah.
These questions are 100% selfish to us at Royal Flush. Because if I don't know those answers, I can't be truthful and transparent with the customer on what to expect when we arrive.
Yep.
And if I can't do that, then the chances of you getting disappointed are going to be higher.
And I mean, we've talked about before, just having people farther down the funnel. I think obviously these questions are for your sake, planning everything out. But these questions also, I feel like, get a customer farther down the funnel to know these questions and get educated on their infrastructure. And so by the time it's even time to schedule a camera inspection or reach out to a company to get this work done, they know the answers to these questions.
Yep. And a lot of these answers or these questions that we're going to ask or maybe predetermined by you be ready to go, the answers might be no, and I might tell you that we're not the right company for you. Right? And so, for instance, let me give you a scenario. Okay? So I'm going to say, hey, let's say they're the magical customer. And they're like, John, I've got your checklist in front of me. I think I have the answers to your questions. Okay, Bob, go ahead and shoot. What size of pipe? It's a 6-inch cast iron pipe. Fantastic. That answers the first two questions. The access, yeah, there's a clean out, man. It's right there. You can do it. People have gone through it before. Okay, no, it's definitely flowing. I know it's totally fine. It's not backed up right now, and it's just a sewer pipe. Say, okay, well, my next question would be, give me a little more history. Well, I've owned the house for 30 years. It's the first time it's ever happened. Oh, really? Tell me more about that. Yeah, I think it's just, some toilet paper got flushed down there, and it got backed up, but, I'm a little nervous now. I would say, okay, Bob, we can definitely still come out, but let me give you a little more detail because I think there's a chance you might not be ready for my service. One time in 30 years, first of all, you're doing great. Okay, we have no series of events. We have no habitual backups. We have no real trend yet. Now, your pipe could be on the verge of catastrophe. I have no idea. But traditionally for our customers, that's usually what we call a soft blockage, traditional everyday wear and tear. I can certainly come out. Here's the price to come out. And also let me give you just a vague idea of what pipelining is. Here's some costs and some fees. And what I want to make sure is that I don't want to come out and camera your pipe and just make you feel good. Because that's a waste of my time. So if you're willing to spend between this and this, or you really, truly want to pursue it, I'd love to come out there and offer you a solution so you literally never have to worry about it again. But I think you're in the maintenance program here where you should be spending $300 to $1,000 to have your pipe cleaned, not $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $100,000 to have your pipe permanently lined. Oh, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And like, Bob, if you have another issue within 1, 2, 3 months, 6 months, maybe give me a call because maybe there's something else going on. But right now, I really don't think you need us. That's what I would say. Right? So it's like we do not want to go to people's houses or their businesses that aren't potentially ready for a fix.
Yep.
And I would love, we review our phone calls, which are tracked through our SEO program and third party. You and I go over them once a week, Kyle. And last week you said, this one was 26 minutes, John. And that's because I had a real in-depth, honest conversation with the customer who was a super nice guy. And he was asking me, what if this, what if that, what if then, blah, blah, blah. And I was completely honest and transparent with him. And that guy, he wasn't ready for a permanent fix to invest the money in it, right? And I think I might just maintain it. And I was like, you know what? I think you're right. I think you clearly have your answer. I can't tell you what to do with your money or what you value my service to be at. I can't do that. All I can do is present to you the solution and the value. And if you're not ready for it, what am I going to come out there for? I'm just wasting everybody's time.
Yeah. You're not going to just try and screw a guy who doesn't need our service out of 10, 20 grand.
And I mean, you sound really nice, but I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to go and hang out with you for an hour. Yep. We have other things we can be doing that can produce money for our company. That's why we're in business. And so he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to think about it more, and maybe I'll revisit in a couple months, or if certainly something happens, I'll call you, John. I was like, great. Otherwise, I would have went there, given an estimate. He wouldn't have done the job anyway. So what was the point? I end up talking more people out of us coming than going because we are not in the business to conduct camera inspections.
Yep.
We're in the business of lining pipe. And if I know the answer to these questions and I can sense an urgency or a customer who is looking for a solution, the chances of us doing business are going to be really high. You're going to be down the funnel for us, and we're going to line your pipe.
Yep.
That's what these questions are for.
And I think you had mentioned kind of more the screening process, like, tell me more about your situation. And we've kind of talked about it. You're very good at the screening process with potential customers and kind of figuring out what's going on. I feel like these questions in the literature are the more black and white questions where a customer can be like, this is the right answer.
Yes.
This pipe is 4 inches.
Yeah.
This pipe is cast iron.
These are not open-ended questions.
These are yes, no, A,
yes,
B, C, D.
no, what size, specific, direct, exact. Yeah, these are not questions you ask early on in the sales process.
Yeah.
These are somebody down the line who's interested. You need to know these are yes or no questions. And depending on the answer to those, it's going to either A, arm us to do a better job for you, or B, tell me that you might not be ready for our service.
Yep.
Which is totally 100% okay. And so if we wrap it up with this, Kyle, hopefully anybody listening gets to see our literature.
Yep.
I think it looks fantastic. I think it conveys the message of what we do. And I really love this checklist we came up with. Kyle will put the literature out on the podcast, put a link to it so you can check it out. And it conveys all the stuff that we do, and more importantly, helps us narrow down the answers to the questions that we need to know so we can provide you guys with the best service in the world with our super cool technology and ultimately line your pipe.
So thank you everyone for watching the Royal Flush podcast, and stay tuned for more stuff like this, and thanks for watching.
Catch you next time.